Coming from Central Kentucky, land of horses, bourbon, and basketball, straight to your ears, ChickenCoopGuides.com presents AgriCast Digest, your place to get news and information about anything agriculturally related. Please welcome your host, Gabrielle Yoder.
Hi folks, welcome to this week's episode of AgriCast Digest. We've got a guest today who lives in Hertfordshire, England, if I'm pronouncing that properly, and is the author of some really charming children's books about 4 hens who used to live on an industrial farm. So welcome, Heather Trefusis, and how are you doing over there?
Really good. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for coming. It was a bit of a challenge with the time difference, but I think we managed to do it.
Yeah, I think we got there in the end. Yeah.
Yep. Now, I think anyone who raises chickens can appreciate the really batty things that they do. But you took those and made their adventures into books for children, which I think is really great. And not only that, but your hens come from a broken home, as it were. So it's not only your average hen's crazy adventures, but it's the whole series of books, and it's, is an ultimate happy ending. So I think the first thing we wanted to ask was if this was your first experience with raising chickens.
Yes, it was. Yeah. It was the first time, that we'd ever had chickens. But actually, I'd wanted to have some as pets for a few years. But at the time, my husband and I lived in an apartment and we didn't have a garden. So we were kind of counting down to when we could get them when we moved house and had our own garden. So it was something that we wanted for quite a few years, actually. So when we moved, it was the first thing that we organized.
I understand. We're actually in between houses right now. We close on our house next week. And we were used to living in a house, and before that we had an apartment. So it's hard, especially if you have to go back and forth like we've had to. But yeah, I can sympathize with being stuck in an apartment and wanting to be able to have chickens. So can you tell us why you decided to adopt these hens and what kind of life, what was life like for them before they came to your really pretty little garden? I mean, there's most people when they go to get chickens, they go to their farmer supply or they go to a local farmer and they get, some hens that are already ready. What made you decide to adopt from a battery farm?
The reason I had the idea was actually a few years beforehand. I had read about this charity in a magazine that rehomes hens from battery farms to people who want them as pets. And I mean, since I was a child, I've been really passionate about animal welfare. It's always been a big thing in my life. So when I read about this, I thought, wow, that's incredible. I had no idea that you could do that. And it really stuck in my mind. And literally from that moment, I thought, right, as soon as we can get them, we're going to do this, because I just thought it sounds such a rewarding thing to do. I mean, I don't know what it's like over there, if it's the same as here, but the cages that the hens are kept in the battery farms, I think the law has changed in the last couple of years and they have slightly more space now. But at the time, for each hen, they had just literally their cage was the size of an A4 piece of paper. And I just think it's so unnecessary and so cruel. And, to have lived like that from when they're very young up to when they're around 18 months old. And, they're in these huge warehouses. It's dark, it's noisy. They have no quality of life. And I just thought, God, it's so sad. And then after that, they're just slaughtered and the younger ones are brought in. So this charity was started and they rehome them and people can have them as pets so they can have a happy free range retirement pottering around in someone's garden. So it was just something that I wanted to do from the minute I heard about it, and it was absolutely wonderful.
I suspect that British chickens might have it slightly better than they do here. Industrial farms here, they have a tendency to do what they call debeaking. So they'll actually like cut off their beaks. And because when chickens, I'm sure you've noticed, if they get bored, they tend to peck at each other. So they'll debeak them to prevent them from doing that. And there's, and they have about the same amount of space as they did previously in Britain. Like you said, the A4 piece of paper is about how much space they have. Even supposed free range, hens that it's kind of a technical term that makes it something that looks good on an egg carton, but in reality, it's not that much better than just the regular battery farm. So yeah, it is pretty cruel. I think that it was really wonderful that, you really felt strongly to adopt them, because it's not easy. I mean, it's just like, any person that's abused that you would adopt, I'm sure that there was an adjustment period. Now, it looks like you not only write books, but you also seem to have, be a bit of an activist, and you donate at least a portion of your proceeds from your books to the British Hen Welfare Trust. And you had mentioned them, I think, just a moment ago. Can you tell us a little bit more about them and what they do?
Yes, of course. Well, it was really important to me to make sure that they did get a portion of the proceeds from the book sales, because when I first had the idea to write the first book, that was initially in my mind. I thought, for one thing, wouldn't it be wonderful to have a children's book published? But actually, wouldn't it be even better if the money could go towards helping the charity continue rehoming these lovely creatures? So it was, something right from the beginning that was really important to me with the whole book project. But yeah, the charity is amazing. They've been around for 10 years now, and it's just grown and grown. And they now have what they call hen collection points all over the country. So people can just go onto their website, register and say, yes, I want to adopt some hens. I think the minimum you can take is 3 or up to 20, I believe. And they will just let you know when there is a collection near you and when it will be, and you just go along and collect your hens. So it's really wonderful what they do, and they work with the farmers really closely, because they are really supportive of the egg industry, but they also want the standards to improve, and they want to be able to give these hens a better future. So it's fantastic what they do, and I'm just so glad that they exist, and I'm so glad that hopefully I can help them to carry on doing what they do.
That's wonderful. It really is. I'm sure that we've got some organizations like that over here in the States. Some of them tend to be a little extreme. Yeah, I mean, healthy hens it's not good for just them. It's good for us too. I mean, people can think of it if they want to in purely selfish terms, if it helps get the point across to people, I guess, that, if you're going to depend on a bird to give you sustenance in the form of eggs, for example, you want that bird to be healthy, because when it's stressed out, when it's not being fed properly, when it's not being able to exercise properly, when, it's eating really bad, unhealthy food, it's going to have an unhealthy product. And, so if you think of it from that perspective, sometimes it's easier to explain to people that don't really care about animal rights or anything, or animal activism, I guess. But I really appreciate that organization is trying to keep a good balance. I think that some of the organizations I've run into over here in the States tend to go to, like I said, extremes, and they don't really think about the impact that they're having on the businesses. So I think that that's really a healthy balance, and, the ones over here might think to look over to that. Now, we've kind of talked about some of the grown-up stuff, and we've gotten all of that stuff out of the way. So can you tell us about your chickens now? Do you have any maybe funny stories that didn't make it into your books about them?
Well, there's so many. I mean, you know what characters they are. They do funny things all the time, don't they? And just make me and my husband laugh so much. But Yeah, I mean, I remember one time I was sunbathing in our garden on a really lovely sunny day, and I literally just lay down and Josephine just jumped on top of me and just lay on top of me sunbathing on me sunbathing. So that was quite a moment, and she was quite happy to just lie there for the rest of the afternoon. So I wasn't too thrilled about it, but she seemed to think that was a good spot to catch the rays.
Maybe your reflective surfaces or something. That's funny.
But yeah, the group of them were, always up to something and running around snatching worms off each other and squabbling over nice things they found to eat in the garden and things like that. So they're just a joy to have around, really, aren't they?
That is lovely. Now, I see you can get your books from Amazon UK, but are there any plans to make them more widely available, like maybe in an ebook format or here in the States or anything?
I believe the publisher is looking into ebook formats, so that may be something that they introduce. But actually on fourlittlehens.com on the website, if you go through there, we do ship them to the US. So they are available over there. But I'll definitely keep you posted on the ebook side of things as well.
Well, that's really wonderful. Because I looked through and I was like, these are such cute little books and they've got such wonderful little illustrations. And I'd love to be able to give them to my daughter. Like my 4-year-old, for instance, would probably love them. She really loves animals. And they're really cute. And, for kids, I prefer to put like a real book in front of them. I'm not big on the tablets, but ebooks are popular now. So is there anything that you would really like to express or anything that you feel passionate about that you haven't discussed already before we close?
Just to say about the books, I feel that it's a good opportunity for children to almost gently be introduced to animal welfare issues because, they are sort of cute, funny little stories, but each of them has a foreword at the beginning just to briefly say, these hens lived in a cage and one day they were rescued and taken to live in a garden and, they had a lovely time there and were able to enjoy the sunshine and good food and friendship. And I think it's just something that was important to me was to try and introduce children to these kind of ethics, but without being too in your face about it. I think it's something that children should be aware of and should grow up to be compassionate to animals. So it's really important to me to get that message across, but to do it in a way that's appropriate to their age. So that's something that I hope will be, the books will have an impact on.
I think that's wise. I think that's a good way to do it. Because I was wondering, because you can't read the books online. So I was looking at them and I was looking through the supplemental materials, and I was even wondering. I'm like, I wonder how much she goes into like where they came from. Like, I wonder if the illustrator made little pictures of the little hens in their little cage or anything like that.
No, there's nothing like that because, as I say, I think you have to be aware of doing it in a way that's appropriate for children. So I just almost wanted to just hint at their past, but the books and the stories are about them having fun and their lovely life that they lead now. So, that was important. And we do have a page inside just about the charity and what they do, because as well as raising money, I want to raise awareness of what the British Hen Welfare Trust does. So that was something that was really important to me too.
I agree. I think that is important, especially for getting children involved in causes like that early. I think it kind of helps condition them to be more kind and open-hearted as they get older. really encourage that spirit of giving and thinking of others. So I think that's a very good, gentle way of going about it. I did want to say thank you so much for coming on the program, Heather. I really did enjoy talking to you today. And your website is for FOUR littlehens.com, right?
That's right. Yes. Thank you so much. It's been wonderful to speak to you.
Great. Yeah, it's been wonderful to speak to you too. Thank you so much for making time. I know it's difficult with the 5 or 6 hour difference we've got between us, but I'm going to make sure that we share this with our Facebook group and put it on our episode page. And if you have any little funny pictures of your hens or anything, that if you could send that to me by email, our Facebook group loves stuff like that. So we would love to put it on our episode page of the real chickens, and we'll put it with a link to that. As far as our listeners, that's all the time we have for today. Until next time, good night and God bless.
You've been listening to AgriCast Digest. If you like what you just heard, please share with your friends. And don't forget to go to ChickenCoopGuides.com/podcast to download transcripts and archives of this episode, as well as take advantage of any freebies or trials offered in this episode. You can then visit our private podcast Facebook page, also linked there. This has been a Bluebird Media production.